girl issue.
Honestly, I wish I was born a dude. Life would be easier.
Recording has started.
If I was born a dude, life would be easier.
I know, but I wouldn't
Everybody says
enjoy it
that.
as much.
It's
I agree.
true.
It is.
Just a fact.
It is, but I do enjoy being a woman and
True.
all that entails.
Yes. Agreed.
Like,
Hello.
hello.
What's up?
Welcome to podcast number 2. We've got GREL and Hayaa. What's your podcast name?
It is Hayaa Housing Houston.
Hayaa Housing Houston. Love it. Love it. Well, we were just having a great conversation. I'm sorry we didn't get that on video.
Yeah, no.
X-Men. We're just going to say X-Men.
We were talking about the X-Men, the original X-Men.
May have involved Mystique.
Misty. Rebecca.
And-
Anyway,
Yeah.
Haya's here to talk business.
Boys,
Let's
seriously, come on.
So today we're going to be talking about new construction homes and why they are such a hot alternative currently for first-time home buyers compared to an existing home. So if you guys could enlighten the audience a bit and tell them how or why first-time home buyers can take advantage of the competitive mortgage rates that builder incentives which are currently being offered, and why they should look into a new construction home compared to an existing one.
Who wants to take that first?
I could go first.
Go for it.
It's a big subject.
That is a lot of.
It's a big subject.
That covers a lot right there.
I think first of all, you've got to look
into
at
each
what,
topic deep.
Yeah.
what your buyer is actually looking for.
Yeah.
Number one question. Yep.
Yeah,
Number one
what do they
question.
want?
Yeah, and you got to try and see and try and find out if there's a builder that's building in the area.
Do they want to
Number
live
one.
in? Yeah.
Number two, you want to make sure that the builder is reputable and they have a history of taking care of their clients after closing.
Mhm.
All of those are very important because the last thing you want is for somebody to buy the house and then have a big series of problems after they've closed on their property. Now, one of the bonuses of buying a brand new house is a lot of builders will give you a 10-year structural warranty on the property included in the purchase price, right? And then they'll have other different builders have different warranties, but most of them will have warranties for a year on certain things in the house, right? And all of them vary. So do your homework or talk to a good agent. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people think that they're going to go to a builder and they're going to get a better deal if they don't bring an agent with them.
It's actually the opposite. Complete opposite.
Yes. Most of the time, when you go to a builder sales rep, the builder sales rep works for the builder.
Correct.
They're trying to get the best deal for the builder,
Not the client.
not
No.
the client.
Okay.
Now, yes, they want you to get the house sold, but at the same time, depending on who the builder is, there may be incentive for them to sell a house at a certain price. There may be incentives for them to sell a certain number of houses per month or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, if you do not have representation to tell you or help you and guide you on what you should do when you're getting into that brand new home, or somebody that's worked with that builder and knows their processes and stuff, you could end up being in trouble, right?
Typically a builder will have a separate budget hire for realtors. It doesn't come out of the sales price. A lot of people have this,
Most builders,
Yeah.
not all.
but they have this idea that if they don't use their own realtor, then they're going to get the commission taken off the price, and that is
Not always the
never-
case.
Very
And-
rarely.
And most of the time, if you have a good realtor,
they'll be able to get you more.
they'll be able to get you way more than 3% off of the asking price. Am I wrong?
No, 100%.
Have you
We
guys,
talked about this with buyers. You know that do you want my contribution or do you want me to bring you $15K off the price?
Yes.
So it's the same thing with builders. It's instead of using us for just the commission part of it, you really want to talk about the value that we bring. And the only way the client knows that is if we make them aware of it and we
Right.
tell them, this is why I'm of value to you. And it's a big notion. Realtors just don't do anything, but that's completely opposite.
Well, we build relationships with
And
a lot
that's
of these
another thing.
builders.
the relationships.
We have certain builders that we have done a lot of business with, so they know us, and they are much more inclined to, if we have a client that is really looking at a specific price point, they're much more inclined to be able to give us that wiggle room, knowing that we're going to bring more clients back, you know.
it's a good partnership.
So it works both ways. That helps that negotiation process. And I don't, you know, even however good you think you are of a negotiator, we will always get more off for you, because people come, I got some.
We know.
Yeah,
We
I
know
got
what
sprinklers thrown into the deal, and we're like, but they can't stand it. So yeah.
And on top of that, we know what houses have sold in that
Mhm.
neighborhood for. You know, when we come in, we can tell you, hey, you're paying $15,000 more than what the last person paid for the exact same house.
Yep.
You know,
Have
you
you
pay
guys had someone be sneaky and go behind your back
Always.
when you're dealing with a new construction?
always.
All three of
Really?
us are going to do this.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes, unfortunately, some people, you know, I'm just going to say, I'm not
They're
as
not
ethical.
educated. They're unethical. Very much
Let's
so.
say the
Very
ethical
much so.
Or
compass is a little different to us.
Or they think they're going to get a better deal. You know.
Yeah, it's just a false notion.
Yeah.
It's a false notion.
Yeah.
We're a necessity for clients, and we believe that. We believe that. That's why we're in this industry.
Yeah.
Is
Mhm.
because we know that we're doing a service to them.
You could, and I stand by that whole relationship thing. You can ask any of our clients that we've worked with in the past. I think I don't know of any off the top of my head that would say that we didn't provide more of a service or a benefit to them than they would have had without it.
That we didn't go above and beyond
Yeah.
to make sure everything went as smoothly as
But
possible.
part of it is our sort of hands-on approach.
Yep.
We tend to work everything at a very sort of down-to-earth level. We try to educate our clients as well. We're not just telling them, oh, you need to do this. We're educating them as to why,
Yep.
you know, or why this builder we feel it would be a better choice for their needs than that builder, you know, that kind of thing.
A lot of agents will also assume, and I'm not talking bad about agents here. We as agents sometimes assume that people know more than what they do, right? So a lot of the times it's our job to educate a CEO, a doctor, right? These are people that are,
They're smart in their
far
industry.
in life.
Yeah.
They're very
They're just
smart in their
Plus,
industry.
they're too busy to
Exactly.
take care of
And
things
we're
that
educating them
they're
about something
educated
that they had no idea about. And instead of just telling them, these are not stupid people, they're very intelligent people, but they don't know about this particular
That's not their
subject,
thing.
right? That's not their field. So instead of telling them what to do, we educate them. Okay, this is what you do in this situation. This is why we're doing this. And then it makes their transaction easier. It makes them feel comfortable about what they're doing. You know, so it's and I know we were talking about brand new houses, but we got sidetracked again.
But it applies to everything. Not
It
just
applies to
house.
everything,
It
yeah.
applies to everything.
But it's best, yeah, I think more so because of the, there's a huge amount of builders in Houston, and it's very overwhelming.
It can be.
And
It can be.
you know, even though you have this beautiful like build house, and your client's adamant that they feel that this is the perfect fit for them, you know, it's still our job to remind them, well, you do realize that the resale on this is going to be, you know, what's your plan for the future, your exit. You know, we try to do that too, so people make the smart choice and don't regret it.
And for the people out there that are just getting on and learning about this, when we're talking brand new homes and builders, we're talking about a builder that builds, 100, 250, 60, 2,000 houses in one particular neighborhood. We're not talking about a custom home builder,
It's a whole
because
other,
that's a whole different ballgame.
yeah, it's a
We
very
can do a
different
podcast on that
experience.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
This
can
is
do
a-
that alone.
this is-
This
more
is
of
the
a-
sort of, you know, the big.
Higher producing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact, guys.
Yeah, fun fact. New build and custom
Are very different.
different things.
Two different categories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going back to new build, I mean, when I talk to my clients and we talk about their preferences, I ask them, have you considered new build? Have you considered pre-existing? And then I go through top 3 or 4 things that are separate.
Mhm.
You know, with an existing home, you get into an established neighborhood, you've got your equity already in there, you've got a value. With a new home, You're going to get equity coming into the next few years. You're coming into a new neighborhood, most likely.
And sometimes they're still building. They're still building.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That even hikes up your value even more. So, for example, I live in Harvest Green. I was in probably phase 3 of where my house is, and now there's a new phase in Harvest Green. My value spiked because of that new phase. So those are the things we have to educate our buyers on, that if you come here in 3 to 5 years, all this is going to grow. So
Exactly.
if that's what you're looking for, that's what you want to go with. So new construction is not for everybody, but not pre-existing homes aren't for everybody. It is very much a case-by-case thing,
Yeah.
depending on what their goals are, what they're looking for.
Yeah, just like there's a bunch of builders out there. There's, everyone's mom, sister, and brother is a realtor today. So it's like more about how you distinguish yourself in terms of your services, your negotiation skills. Today, everyone's a great negotiator. Everyone's a great content creator. But like at the end of the day, it just comes down to how you're different from what everyone else is doing.
I think a lot of
Which
that's
is-
relationship based as well.
Yeah.
If you can, when you meet, new people or people who, are interviewing us to work with them, we always try to be as transparent, as upfront as possible, because for us, it's very much a relationship driven transaction. Because if you don't trust, and it goes both ways, if you don't trust the person that is what you're
Across the
working
table
with,
from you,
Exactly.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
potential issues that could crop up. So it's very important to build that rapport, build that trust with the person so that they can, understand where you're coming from. You can understand where they're coming
So they don't get sneaky.
Yeah.
from. Well,
But
sometimes
not just
that can
sneaky,
happen,
but it's
but-
just, if there's a red flag for the client, they're never going to fully trust your opinion.
no.
Then they're going to bring outside factors and talk to others,
Yeah.
and
The
And
dreaded-
other opinions.
And talk to other realtors, which now then realtors are starting to break the law.
Yep,
and all of that
stepping on
stuff.
each
Yeah,
other's
but,
toes. But Louisa just said something that is something that is the core of MPR Group, and it doesn't have to be you're new to the team. We recently merged, but I could tell you all of us are aligned, especially us three. When we created this group together, was 2 things. I think you even asked me this when you came to EXP and said, "Hey, do you have like a theme or do you have a motto for the team?" And my motto was results driven, relationship based. If you look on our website, it's there. That's what
your
we're
most
about.
important thing.
2 most important things. So we are driven by results, but we are based on relationships. There are a lot of realtors out there that won't touch the phone to call their client after the closing.
Yeah.
If you were to ask some consumer, when was the last time you talked to your realtor? Oh, when I got my house. When was that? 5 years ago. So in 5 years, you don't touch base with that client. That's why we're relationship
But see,
based.
here's the thing: when that client now goes to sell the house, is that client going to call you back?
No. So that's what it's about. And I think Arthur and Louisa could understand this. How good, if you were to just numerically put a value on one client,
Mm-hmm.
how many deals do you think potentially you could get out of that one client? Not referrals, but that one client. At least 3, I would say.
At least 3.
Right?
Yeah.
Buying a home, selling their current home, maybe even moving in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 3 potential deals per client.
If you
If invest
them
the
well.
time
Yeah, and invest
keep in
the
touch
time.
with.
And it's not a fake,
It's not.
It-
It's a relationship.
we tend to have,
We were invited this weekend to a crawfish boil.
unfortunately, sorry, we couldn't
Make it. And
But this is
whoever
one of our-
invited us knows,
It was
we
one
could
of our
not make it. We
first
have a lot of-
clients.
yeah.
And do you know how we met them? Their daughter sat next to my son in kindergarten.
Dang.
Yeah.
And we had my first, so obviously I was new to the country, and my first child here. So we had his first birthday party, for all his classmates and everything. Now, I did not know how American kids' parties were meant to go down. So I kind of just
Winged it.
winged it, literally. But I knew that I wasn't going to get
We
through
did
this
what
party.
we were used to.
Yes. So where both cultures that we're from, parties are everybody's invited,
Yeah.
children run around feral, and the parents kind of socialize, get to know each other. So anyway, needless to say, we started the party around lunchtime, but I had large coolers full of children's drinks and then let's just say adult beverages. So when his couple came into the back,
It wasn't the
It's a
couple,
party.
it was only the wife.
It was wife. So when she came in, I was like, okay, do you want a beer, wine? I got some vodka, whiskey, and I kind of wrote down. And I said, because that's about how I'm going to get through today. You know what I mean? And she's like, oh, we're going to be friends.
So she called her husband, and I told him, "You need to come to this party
So
right away."
that's how
He
we
did
met
not
them.
come, but no joke, not even a month later,
Well, they were
we
selling
stayed
their
in
property.
touch.
And it wasn't that.
Not even a month later, they called us,
Just for
and
some advice, and then that it kind of flourished from there. And I would say, since then, they have bought and sold with us their own personal home about 4 or 5 times.
Look at that.
yeah,
And then investment properties as well,
and
And-
other properties
and other properties, and then referral to their family members.
and friends.
So,
Yep.
and again, the way I want to sort of like frame this is that it's not about just being nice to someone because you have to for their business.
No,
It's having that genuine
No.
connection
it's
with
a genuine
someone.
thing.
But
we
we
have a
I mean,
genuine
we're friends.
connection. We're really good
now
friends with
friends.
them.
We hang out. We do stuff together, and they become good friends,
Yes.
good family friends, right?
Yeah.
But like, and that's
And
important.
the day I met the husband,
He loves
he
this
will
story.
if he ever
So
sees this
often-
podcast, he will laugh his
We
butt
used to
off.
work for another brokerage, and Arthur was getting ready to go to one of their awards nights, and he lost a bet with our old friend.
No, they bet me that I would not do it.
Yeah.
So I,
Of course.
me being me,
What?
I
he
did it.
shaved, so he
I
had these
shaved
great
most of my
big
head
lamb
and
chops,
a big old lamb chops.
like really like big fluffy.
Whoa.
Like
Like
as thick
lamb
as
chops?
this, as thick as this,
Wow.
but like that.
It was
And
funny.
then I did a Fu Manchu.
It was a
Have a
look. It
picture?
was a look. I'm sure we do something. I have to get it
man.
out for you.
Oh yes,
But,
I
like,
want that picture.
He so he went to meet these guys because they were like, hey, can you come and have a chat about this? And Arthur's like, okay, but I gotta warn you, I don't normally look like this. But anyway, so he turns up
The
to this.
catfish realtor.
Yes. So he turns up to this listing appointment,
That's
and
amazing.
I swear, like the guy, the friend of ours, still tells that story to people,
Oh.
like how he
still
first
tells
met
the
him.
story.
That is
But
amazing.
I mean,
That
it's
is
just
amazing.
so we built that for. We were
So
very like Arthur could have put it off and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm not." But when he went and told him the story, the guy was just
He thought it was
it
hilarious.
was a good story. He's like, "Yeah,
That's a great story.
But that broke down a lot of those
The barriers. You know, remember what I said earlier is make a friend
Yeah.
instead of trying to make a sale, right? Sometimes you make a
Yes.
friend and it doesn't
Sometimes.
materialize into a sale,
No.
right? But guess what? 6-7 months down the road, that
Yeah.
friend's going to call you back.
Or refer you to their
Or
cousin
refer you
or a
to their
sister,
friend,
or
You know,
Yeah.
if sometimes it doesn't work out. But if you've made a friend and you've genuinely made a friend, it will pay off.
and
you know,
it
it'll
works
pay
both
out.
ways because now we actually
For both of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
they people especially in different industries are able to share. You're able to share vendors. You're able
Yeah.
to share
Yep.
information
You
that
know,
works on them.
that person may be in an industry entirely different to you.
But you never
And
know.
one day you may need their services or advice. And that's a friend that you can go to.
And you trust because
And you
they
trust.
trust you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not about just you getting the business from them. It's about making a friend that you have as a, they have you as a resource. You have them as a resource.
Yeah.
That's what friends are, right? It takes a village.
But yeah, me and Arthur, or Arthur and I, should I say, and Mickey all strongly believe about the relationship that if they're even within our team, that if there is a personality that doesn't work, mesh well with everybody else, then we need to make some decisions because
we have to make amends.
we believe that strength and relationships between people help
Yeah.
build.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Back to the topic at hand.
We got a little.
We always
That's what the
do.
podcast is about, though. But
We always do.
Going back to
But-
even your first client.
This whole discussion was definitely not just a sidetrack, but actually a learning
Yeah.
point because you are only as good as the people you build your network
Mm-hmm.
with.
That's
Yeah.
very
people that
true.
you
The
know.
support that you have with you.
Yeah. And so it's all about making friends and not a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm friends with my first client.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she called me yesterday, and she's like, "Hey, it's been a while since we talked. Just wanted to call and say hi." She's given me probably 7 referrals.
Yeah.
Wow.
besides her house, and that's my first client, and she literally walked into Remax.
Oh, really?
She was a walk-in, and you know how Remax has this thing where you get like a time slot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What is it called? What was it called?
Floor time.
Floor time.
Floor time.
So floor time. Some brokerages give you a chance to
Take the calls.
block off
Okay.
an hour, and whatever incoming
Or,
calls or
whatever.
walk-ins,
Mhm.
you get a chance to talk to that lead.
That can work
Okay.
in big offices that are centrally
Correct.
located.
Correct.
But it doesn't always work in the smaller because,
They may not have a lot of
it's
listings.
also the
It's
business
just
is different these days
It's
than when we
different. This
first
was years ago.
started.
This
Yeah.
was 10 plus years
Yeah,
ago.
because the people did go to they would
They would
I'll
walk
just pop
into a
in.
brokerage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't do that
She
anymore.
walked in, and now we're like friends, and
Yeah.
we know each other's lives. And she called because she knew my wife is expecting soon, and she's like, just want to see how your wife's doing and all this kind of stuff.
Checking in.
So that's the kind of relationship we're talking about. Is you got to have that rapport.
Before the entire world kind of moved into the digital era,
Yeah.
it was always, people walking in, actually meeting people,
Phone calls.
communicating with people.
Yep.
in
And I
person.
that's one of the things that we instill in our agents. That's the most important thing to do is to get in front of that client so they can see you, they can interact with you.
Yeah.
A text or an email.
We're all humans.
Yeah,
Right? We need connection.
that social interaction.
Right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what anybody tells you. We all need that human interaction. Right? We need to be face to face with somebody. We need to know that the person across from us, I'm not going to use a negative term, but is not a creep or
Certainly.
a certain type of person that sometimes you meet people and you might get along online,
Mhm.
but you meet them,
And it's a complete opposite.
Yeah.
and it's like,
But it's kind of like the dating world. Right?
yes,
You have a phone conversation with somebody. It may work on the phone, but
Yeah.
when you meet them, is that chemistry there?
Yes.
When you go on a date.
yeah,
So it's the same thing with a realtor and a client. Is the chemistry going to be okay? Are you the same kind of alignment?
Exactly.
So it's the same application. And I think it really does bode well with making sure that you have those interpersonal relationships in person. Phone call is great because sometimes I overly text people, but then I make it a point to call and then meet. If you were to come to Arthur and I and say, hey, I have a client, I think probably the first thing we'd say is bring them in.
Yeah.
Bring them in. Let's talk to them in person.
Yeah.
Well, you can figure out both because people will say that they want A, B, C, but what they actually want is D, E, F. But you can't really interpret that until you've kind of
So,
In person.
let's bring that back to the new home thing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Somebody may tell you, oh, this is what I want in a house. I don't want to look at new houses. Okay? But you go to all these houses showing them exactly what they want,
And they were like,
which
yeah.
reminds me of another client, right? Which has exactly what they want. And they tell you, oh man, this is horrible.
Yeah,
I
I don't
hate
want
this. I
this.
hate that. I don't like this. I don't like that. Right? Now, because you're there in person, you can see their reactions to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can see
Pick up things.
what they actually like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
Right? They may not. Now, remember, everybody you meet is going to be different. There are people that will come in and will tell you, oh, I really like this. I really like that. I'm not so sure about this. I'm not so sure about that. Right? But there are ones that will come in and say, oh, I hate this. I hate that.
Yep.
I hate this.
Yep.
But they will not tell you the things they like.
Yes.
Okay? The only way you can tell is by being observant.
And reading them.
Yeah,
Yes.
reading their body language,
Right?
Yeah.
Reading
When
what
someone walks in and
they're
they're very
saying
dismissive of the
without
place and they want to
saying
leave
it.
immediately, you know that this is not going to work for
Yeah.
them. And then you can, we've had conversations with clients in the past where they've gone to see the same house in a different neighborhood or just thinking it's going to be different, they're going to get a different vibe. And we're like, okay, so this is exactly
The same house.
the same house that we just went to see that you didn't like. So how about we
How about we go and look at this?
this? Yeah.
Right?
Just
and
to compare.
in this
Just to
situation I was
compare.
just talking about, it was literally, I could see their reactions to certain things. I knew what they did not like. I said, you know what? I know you said you're not interested in the brand new house, but let's just go look at this one, and then you can tell me what you think.
Mhm.
Guess what?
Bought that one, did they?
Needed.
You just don't
The
know.
minute that they walked into the
I'm
house,
telling you.
because I knew what they liked, I knew what they liked. I had seen what they liked
Yeah.
from their reaction. Right? Even though they hadn't told me anything about what they liked, because what they told me they liked when they saw it, they didn't like at all. so
It's-
when we walked into the brand new house, so we walked into the model home. They didn't like the model home, right? But I knew which one they would like because shout out to Martin Evans. I spoke to Martin Evans, who was at the time was with a builder that's no longer around. It's called Trendmaker.
oh, yeah, I remember
And
trying to make-
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Those are the
they got
Bastion
bought out by
ones.
another company, so they're no longer Trendmaker. We walked into the model, and I knew the model wouldn't work for them, but I knew Martin had another house that fit all of the criteria that they wanted and all of the things that they had not told me they wanted. So we walked into the house, and the minute that the gentleman's wife stepped into the door, her first words were "Wow," right? And she did this. She's like, "Oh, wow!" And at that point, I knew this is what they wanted,
Yeah.
right? And then we walked around the corner, and there was the kitchen. And she's like, "Oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking for."
I feel like a lot
Right,
of
and that was it. That was the home they wanted. And then when we walked through the rest of the house, it just ended up
compounding.
compounding
their
their
Jackpot.
decision.
There's a lot of the times buyers can be a little scared, thinking that we're just going to look for the most expensive house we can because that's a big
Because they think, oh, we're all going to try and get the highest commission to put them in the house.
I'm
not
sure
saying there's not people that
there
do
might
that.
be, but
that's not what we do.
no. We
That's
do,
not
Drew,
what we
because
do.
I want someone to be happy with where they live. A, because I said of the relationship there, and secondly, because I would really appreciate it to get more business from them. If you don't place someone
you're
in
planting
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
you're
this is-
planting that seed with them.
Yeah.
But here's going back to my point. We were able to negotiate. And that's something that you may not be able to do. Yes, you can negotiate, but you may not be able to do what I'm about to tell you. We were able to negotiate almost 11% off of that price of the house, right?
That doesn't happen on a pre-existing
No.
home.
Yeah, you
How?
Now
can
we're
do that.
talking
How?
more because I knew the builder. I
Okay.
knew that they had a price increase. I knew what they had the house priced for before. I by knowing the market, knowing the trends, knowing what they may have raised the price on this house, but they were willing to sell it for this much
a week ago.
a week or 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago or a month ago, right? So knowing that number, I went below that number, right?
Oh, okay.
So we came in almost $70,000 below asking,
That is-
right?
that is
And
great.
Nice.
they came back with a
Chunk.
number, and we came back with another number, and we agreed,
Mhm.
right? And the number was actually the difference was over 10% difference between the purchase price and what the
And the
house was
list
listed
price.
for.
You also have to think about when you build, that builder built that house. So there's a bottom line number that they cannot pass
Yeah,
Mhm.
where they can't make money.
You're not going to sell it for
realistically-
your break-even price.
Yeah, exactly. And realistically, that number is very low.
Mm.
We don't know what that number is. That's why there's room
yeah.
with builders. As soon as a house is built for a builder,
They start
That's a
losing
liability.
money.
Yes.
that's a liability
Yeah.
now. It's not an asset for them. They have to get rid of that liability.
There's a difference between inventory
Okay.
properties and
And
building
building.
properties.
Yeah,
Building is different, yes.
Yes.
But if they build these inventory homes that are just sitting there, it's their tax liability. Their dollars are sitting
They're
in
just
that house.
it's just
yeah.
hemorrhaging money.
It's starting to cost them money.
Yes.
Right? It's
They don't
costing
want
them
that.
more money.
Right.
Because
Makes sense.
if they've used a loan to build the house, they've taken the final draw on the loan, which now the interest is accumulating, and it's every month there's
It's a negative.
There's
at that
a
point.
That's why
negative.
these inventory homes, there's more incentives to purchase an inventory home. But on top of that, as we keep going back to this whole relationship with the builders. But as a realtor professional, it really does behoove you to meet with and get to know all of your sales reps in areas that
And
you do
the
business in.
builders,
Yeah.
which builders are building and what they build and how
The
they're
quality
building
of their
and the
builds. Go
quality
and
of the
look at the
build.
Better Business Bureau, see what people are talking about. Look at the online.
Look at online forums. Look at
And then
you know,
ask them. So I'm seeing a lot of this. What do you know?
what happened here.
What happened here? You know, and having a good understanding of their product will help you with your client, because you can say, well, okay, so you want a fireplace, but this particular builder doesn't make houses in your price point with fireplaces. So even though you like that house, you've got to make that decision. You know what I mean? These are decisions that
the compromise.
certain things builders do are very consistent. Like if you were to drive us into a neighborhood, we could probably guess what builder, depending on the elevation, we could guess what builder that is.
Yeah.
I think we need an episode on that.
It's like this is what is
Like
it?
Coventry.
Yeah.
Coventry has a spiral staircase in
Yes.
almost all of their 2
Yeah.
stories. If you see a staircase like this, most likely that's a Coventry.
I'm not
So
kidding
there's a
though.
few
Like
things.
we can have like a cash prize for whoever guesses.
No,
Whoever
yeah.
guesses this is the most builders.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely, yeah.
yeah.
And clients don't know what they don't know. I mean, going back to what you said about convincing that client, they probably would not have taken upon themselves to walk into that house
No.
that you took them to. But you said, let's just take a chance.
Yeah, let's just go have a
Just
look.
I did that with other clients. I had a client who said, I only want a 2-story house. I said, fine, no problem.
Mm.
But there's one that I do want you to see just for design purposes. Let's walk into that one. We walked into that one. She's like, okay, I want a 1-story. You know who that client was? My wife. So she was convinced. Shout out, Boo. She was convinced that it had to
did
be a
not want
2-story
a
home.
Yeah, she
I
did
said,
not want a
look, let
1-story.
me just take you to one of my favorite 1-stories. Just look at it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll take a couple things from here and put it in a 2-story home. If that's what you really want. Walk in there and she's like, I think I want a 1-story. So the client doesn't know what they don't know.
No.
Yeah.
And so you have to think outside the box and say, okay, even though they said no, let me just put them in the situation. Just drop them in that box physically and see if they react.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of 1-story in builders, there's one in I won't mention the builder name, but there's a 1-story in the back of Siena,
Okay.
and I think you know which one I'm
Oh, I
talking
know.
about, right? Here's the crazy thing. This also for your, people that are listening to the podcast and so on. This can also be a very good thing for people when the market is booming.
Yeah.
And the market is crazy and it's booming. One of my clients ended up right at the beginning of the craziness, after, like during COVID, right after COVID. I think you and I spoke about this.
Mhm.
They built the exact model, same as that model home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They started the house right after the craziness had started,
Mm-hmm.
right? And their price was somewhere in the low fives, right? 500 and something. And it took 7 months to build the house because there was lumber shortage,
materials,
Brick
labor,
shortages.
brick shortages, and all of that stuff, right? So almost I think it was like 7.5 months.
Normally it would have been done in 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been done in 4 months and they would have
Whoa.
been able to move in. But lucky for them, they had somewhere to stay in the meantime, right?
I know what you're talking about.
But here's the craziness. They closed on the house. And I think it ended up at like 5.
No, it was in the
something.
sixes.
They bought it in the 5s. They
Yeah.
closed in the 5s. It was like 560, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. They
Yeah,
say they bought that. To buy the exact
But to
same
buy
model.
the exact same house, the
Exact
exact
same.
same way that they built, the day they closed would have been $720,000
So they had like nearly
So they had,
150 yards
yeah.
equity on the day that
on
they
the
closed.
day that they closed. So
Wow.
that's a benefit. So when you're asking, that's a benefit of building a house if the market is going your way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Because when you build, you're building at the price that it is today.
Right.
And if your
shout
house
out-
takes 9 months,
Oh yeah. That 9 months.
yeah,
Imagine inflation and what that
how bad
builder
it was
swallowed.
at the time. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
builder swallowed
Yeah.
that price because
Yeah.
they could have turned around and told that client, nope, the price today is 700.
Well,
Sorry.
that was what was happening up in Dallas.
Yeah, they were
and
changing
Austin.
and Austin. They were changing
They were changing the
clauses
contract.
saying that literally the builders changed their contract, I believe. You correct me if I'm wrong, but they said someone during that boom that
They can adjust the price.
They can adjust the price
Think
through
about that.
the build. So you'd already
That's
got a
crazy.
contract, a sales contract, but
to
they
buy
put
a
in
house for
clause
this much.
to
Yeah.
say that they have the right to amend,
Okay.
which is unheard
No.
of. Really.
And shout out to that builder for honoring that price.
Yes.
A lot of builders would not have done that,
Yes.
especially during COVID.
And
Yeah.
that builder is Highland. Shout
Highland
out.
I own a Highland home.
Yeah.
We know that builder. They
Highland
are
Homes.
amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
No, and that was amazing. I mean, think about it. My client closed on the day they closed. They ended up with, it was like, hey, here's a check for 150 grand.
That's what you
But
already
it even
got.
happens
Yeah.
in the
That's amazing.
lower end builders as well. Don't think it's only those
Yeah,
big
no.
bougie builders.
Yeah, a lot of
So-
builders are.
We have there's a neighborhood that we work with a lot, and we had investors and first time home buyers buying in their low twos. Were nice, well built, like 3 to 1 story houses.
Mhm.
You know, in close.
You and
to-
I visited there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay,
So
okay,
they were in the
yeah.
low
I
twos
was there
when they
last
first
week.
started selling, like 230.
Yep. 230,
The
240.
same model a year or so later will cost you closer to 3 now.
Yeah.
So they're all real. That's a significant, increase in their
price when you
yeah.
think about it.
Yep.
At that price point, that's
even
a big
at that price
number.
point. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it is possible at both ends of the spectrum. I know that there is this thought that, I have to buy a giant house to get that. But no, you don't.
No.
You just have to buy smart.
Yep. And that's where we come in.
Mhm.
Buy smart
Yes.
with the
That's where we
MPR
come in.
Group.
There you
We're
go.
the best. Okay, so next question for you guys on this topic is what steps, apart from what you have already mentioned, can a first-time homebuyer take to ensure that they're making an informed decision when researching new construction homes?
Hire a good realtor.
realtor.
There's a difference between your cousin that does one transaction every 6 months
No, one transaction a year.
Mhm.
than somebody who does this
It's
full
for a
time for
living,
their
all
living.
day, every day.
Right.
And I'm not just saying you need to go with the big names. Please don't think that way at all. I'm telling you, you need to get someone that's educated. I know lots of people that are very successful in what they do, but they know this much about new builds. Or
They know this much about real estate.
About real estate.
They're very good at their online persona. They're very good at their
Yeah.
marketing.
Yep.
But when it comes, and I've heard, yeah. So,
She cut it short.
Well, I mean,
because I'm not going to badmouth
no,
people.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She's being truthful though.
But
Of
it
that-
does make, and again, that
makes
comes
a big
back
deal.
to meeting someone, finding out about their experience. It isn't just about going and writing a document or signing
And
a
here's the
document.
thing. Look up real estate questions.
Mhm.
Google some real estate questions that you should ask your realtor.
Mm.
Okay? And ask your realtor those questions. Don't just go and look at it and just for decoration purposes.
Mm.
Go and look at it, understand what you're asking, know the answer before you ask, and then ask the questions to your realtor, because that is going to decipher whether you're hiring a good realtor or whether it's somebody that just gets business because of their relationship in the neighborhood,
Mhm.
or that they know a lot of people in the neighborhood, or you're hiring a professional that knows what they're doing.
Yep. Going back to it, I actually appreciate a client who interviews me.
Yeah,
instead
I like
of
it.
instead of just saying, I'm gonna hire you. Well, in my mind, I'm like, why are you hiring?
Yes.
And I've asked clients that. Why'd you call me?
Yeah, how
Or
did you hear
same,
about us?
Why did you decide to go with me? What was it about it? So I know I can work on things better. But I've had one client who recently closed with me a couple months back. He called me because his financial advisor found me on Google.
Okay.
So he's like, hey, do you mind if I ask you a bunch of questions? He did exactly what Arthur's saying. He went through a list of 10, 15 questions that were important to him, but he wanted to know how I would answer them.
Mm.
And after that, he said, okay, I've got to interview 2 other realtors. I'll call you back. And he ended up picking me, but it was because of that. And I appreciated that. I'm like, I'm glad. I don't want somebody to call me and say, hey, I'm going to hire you
Why?
because my cousin knows you. Well, you don't know
Okay.
me, And so in my mind, I'm like, I appreciate someone who will interview me.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation with family members, blood relatives. And I've told them, don't come to me because you know me as a realtor. Come to me because you appreciate what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two different things. And so I've turned down business with family because they don't appreciate that. They just think that they have to come to me because they know me.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. They need to pick your service, not you.
Mm.
You know, as part
I
of
mean,
it.
yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I
It's a
think,
bit of both.
yeah, having
part of
that
it.
comfort in a relationship with somebody you know, as well as having the expertise. I always tell the new agents that work with us to leverage us. So, for example, in a situation where they're asked questions and they don't know, I said, never lie. Please don't say, oh, you know,
say, oh well.
that's the
let
worst
me,
thing you can do
yeah.
because people will see through
They'll
that,
read right through
and
that.
then
Clients will read right through
that can, you know, the thing is,
I do not know the answer,
but
but I can guarantee you,
I'll have an answer for
my
you.
team leader
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
My team leaders do.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And they'll come. You like, for example, you may not know the answer to a question. You ask Mickey. There's a good chance he knows. You ask Louisa. There's a good chance she knows. You ask me. There's a good chance I know.
My phone is quite
If
frequently.
I don't know, she knows. If she doesn't know, he knows.
One of us.
Texting, like I get little texts all day long from people who are on the fly going, literally had the one from one of our team members this morning. It's like, okay, I just looked at this title. Can you just double check this title commitment for me? Because I'm not sure what this means. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Am I right? You know, the fact that I knew she was driving and she just needed to answer the question to her client and she wanted to make sure that she was giving them the correct information. And she was right, absolutely right. So, but I feel that's a very
Having
important
someone
to
to
be.
bounce ideas off is always
Yes.
yeah.
And letting them know that, you know, so that you build that relationship on trust.
Mm-hmm.
I do this today. I call him and just certify my thoughts about something. I texted you yesterday about something,
Yep.
right? And I said, hey,
Yep.
is this right? Like, or am I just kind of,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to guess here.
Yep.
But I
And
knew
we're
that instinctively what the answer was, but I just needed some verification. That's why you have team leaders or partners, in my case.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely want to be able to utilize everybody in your
The
group.
knowledge and the people.
Most definitely.
So as I said, that is of course everyone thinks we're extolling this because this is what we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
But I always try to liken it
interview the
to,
person.
yeah, when you go to court and you need someone to stand up for you in court, do you just pick a name off a list or do you actually look into that
Do you
attorney?
research? And we're not trying to say we're attorneys
No.
or doctors. And same thing with doctors, right? You don't just go to any doctor. You don't
Well-
just go to any attorney.
Dude, even investing.
Mhm.
Or investing.
You're letting
putting-
somebody
giving
handle your money
money.
just
Yeah.
willy-nilly.
And this is
just
possibly the
Yeah.
biggest investment of your life.
So why would you just pick a realtor out of the blue? You know?
Yeah.
Do your
I agree.
research. Talk to that agent. Question the agent. Make sure that they know what they're doing. Do you remember? I'm going to say her name, Monica.
Mm-hmm.
They did that with me.
Mm-hmm.
These young couple that had never met me before just called me out of the blue, and they said, you know, we picked you because you had really good reviews online, but I want to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right?
Bring that on.
I was
That's
like,
great.
absolutely. And I
Right.
answered all of her questions, and I ended up working with her and 3 of her friends.
See, look at that. And so
It's
that's how we build our business.
yeah. So with that, I want to say, knowing we're going into when you buy new builds.
And she's in the appraisal business, so she actually knows quite a bit about real estate.
Real estate, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're always going to
yeah.
push that whole relationship first thing when you're looking at new
But
builds.
it's important. It's important to interview
Yeah.
who you're working with.
Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes while you're interviewing that person, you'll realize that hey, your personalities are just not
when you can't
compatible.
stand to be in the same room as
Right.
someone, you know that transaction is not going to end well.
Because this is not a 2 days thing, right? It's not a 3 days or 5 days thing. This is gonna sometimes a transaction can drag on for months.
Right.
You know, there could be problems with the
Yeah.
transaction.
Sure.
There could be issues on the other side, not just on one side. There could be issues on the other side. And you're now stuck in a transaction with somebody that you can't stand talking to.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now what?
Oh, yeah.
Worst nightmare.
Just-
Well, it goes
am I
both
wrong?
ways.
Right.
No.
And you know, the minute something goes wrong, it'll be your fault if that person doesn't have that
It always
relationship
comes
with
back.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
So-
heard of that happening, even though I'm like haven't had any kind of altercation or any kind of experience yet, but
Interestingly, it's always the friends or relatives of people that end
Wow.
up having the biggest issues.
crazy.
I know, you think you know people until you do a real estate transaction with them.
True.
I'm not going to lie. Like,
True. Once money
it
gets involved,
changes people.
Yeah.
I mean, they say it's the
Buying
the
or
second most
selling a
stressful
home
thing to
is
do.
up there. Supposedly, every year the statistic changes a little bit, but it's in the top 5 most stressful thing that you can do in your life.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think you're going through one of the most stressful things that you're going to do, if you can't trust that person on the other side, it's just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
It's not going to make it better.
Oh yeah.
No, for sure.
You know.
Oh yeah.
No bueno.
Good stuff though.
I
Okay.
do have a last question for you guys before we end today's talk. How, just like how you guys explained how potential clients should interview realtors that they want to work with, how would you recommend first-time home buyers interviewing and evaluating builders when wanting to get a new construction?
I think that goes back to the last question again.
Yeah.
Hire a good
Hire
realtor.
a good realtor.
It
I know
really-
you think you want to go and do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Hire a good realtor.
You're losing ground by doing that. By doing it yourself. So essentially, the research is through your agent, right? You
Right.
could do your own. You definitely want to Google reviews and all that, but
Right.
ask your agent about their personal experience with that, particular builder, or
That's a good question
their
to
team's
ask. That's one of the
experience.
questions you should be asking. How much builder business have you done?
That's a big one. Yep.
What is the process of, if they should be able to tell you straight off the process of building. Now, of course, every builder is going to be a little different, but the process of buying a new build property is different to a resale. And there's things that are done differently in different order, and there's just different considerations.
Yeah.
So if that agent cannot tell you, or is, kind of like brushing you off, they probably haven't done much business with new builds. So
And then to bring back a point on what you just said, there are agents and brokers whose names are just on a transaction.
They have nothing to do with nothing.
They have not done the transactions that you see. That you look and there's like 10,000 transactions this year,
Right.
right?
So
Or
then-
350 or 500
So
transactions.
they're just a
in 1 year.
figurehead for the company. Now, some groups in real estate, you can formulate your group pretty
And
much
I'm not
however
stepping
you
on
want
anyone's
to.
toes. I'm
Right.
just letting you know that
But
just because they
someone's
have a
name is
huge
on there.
number.
Doesn't mean they've
Okay.
done the transaction.
Now, and when you call to interview that agent,
You're not going to talk to
there's a
that
chance
agent.
that you're not going to be
You're going to talk
working
to
with that
somebody on
agent.
their team who actually does the work. And I mean that in the way that a lot of teams are set up so that all listings go under the main team leader's name.
Mhm.
So that is not how we do things, but
But
that's
it may
the way
not
we choose
even
to.
be a listing per se.
No.
It may be just
Purchase.
a
Yeah.
builder's listing. It may
Yep.
be a builder's house that they put. You have 1,000 listings under this one person's name
Mhm.
Yeah, he just has a deal with the builder.
with that particular builder. Doesn't mean that they've closed all these deals with that builder. You just need to be aware when you ask those questions. Make sure the answer is, I have done this many transactions
But we-
with such and such. Not we have done, like what we just said earlier,
Mm.
right? Yes, we're a small team considered compared to some others, but we're involved. Mickey, Louisa, and myself are involved with every transaction that happens
From the team's point
from
of
the
view.
team's point of view. Every
It's
transaction.
part of what we like
Okay.
to do is hold,
We
especially
don't
with
have
new
an
agents.
admin staff that handles every single
No.
thing that comes in. We see, we touch, we deal with every transaction that goes
Well,
under our group.
The way
Mhm.
we want to encourage our agents not just to be an employee, we want them to be understand the entirety of the business. So yes, there's some hand holding at the beginning
Yep.
to show them the process, the documentation, to get them comfortable. But absolutely, we believe that the individual needs to build their own brand within. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just an employee. You're just an assistant.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But the way that we've tried to build our group and encourage the people in our group is to be independent so they can go out there in the world and be amazing realtors.
And we want them to market themselves. So,
Yeah.
You know,
That's why I'm here.
it's a
MPR Group, guys.
MPR
Going to
Group.
be making some moves in 2024.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Well, I
Well,
think
is that
I think that cuts it to an end. Great podcast episode today. We'll have some amazing new material to talk about. On the
I know,
next
and if
one.
there are any questions, I mean, we gladly field if we not touched on something or we've
Oh, yeah.
there's something they really interested
Yes.
in learning about.
If you guys feel like there's anything that we haven't answered or something that gets you guys
Or-
more interested in some topic, reach out and we will have an episode based on that topic.
Absolutely.
Till next time. Take care.
Bye bye.